Great. It does show us on YouTube and Facebook. So we'll be getting started here momentarily. All right, well, let's go ahead and get this started. Good morning and happy Friday to all of you. This is a little bit atypical because we always do our Monday updates with our mayor, and between this week being a holiday, of course, Labor Day hitting on Monday, and then next week being National Small Business Week, where we'll be highlighting small businesses throughout the week, we figured we'd just change some things up and have our mayor with us today instead on Friday to give us all updates in regard to city council, our city kind of resources, resources and opportunities that are out there, of course. If I don't lose my voice, highlighting COVID updates and major changes and things that have kind of occurred over this last week and coming on to our radar here over this next week. Now, I am Juliet Abdel, your chamber president and CEO. And if it is your very first time on our page, make sure that you hit the like button and you hit the notifications that you're following us so you can get those timely alerts when we go live. If you are a returning viewer back to us, thank you so much for being a part of our broadcast for over a year and a half to date. We appreciate you not only tuning in, engaging on this broadcast, but also hitting the share button on your end so others in your network can see that we are live in real time, can kind of pause what they're doing to come on here for a little bit, especially since we had that switch in our schedule for this week. Of course, a lot of housekeeping that I always like to touch on, so I'll condense it rather quickly. If you are not already connected with us on all things social media, we are on Twitter at Westy Chamber, on Instagram at Westy Chamber, on LinkedIn, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. Our website's westminsterchamber.biz. And at the very same time that we are streaming this here on our Facebook platform, this is also streamed on our YouTube channel. So hello to any of our viewers that are on the YouTube channel. I already have one of our YouTube viewers, Wayne Anderson, our board chairman, is sharing a nice good morning message to the mayor and myself. Thank you, Wayne, for coming on here with us. This broadcast is designed to be engaging. So as we information share with you, we know that questions will come up. You'll think of additional comments that you might want us to know of or hear. Type those in the chat section. It is where we'll pick those up and be able to address it for you. I see a good morning remark from Brian Dice as well on our broadcast. Good morning to you. Anyone else that starts to hop on, you can feel free to engage with us through the comment section or, of course, by reacting to the video. And with that, Mayor, I will turn it over to you because I know that we have a rather lengthy agenda in front of us.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And before I start on this week's moment with the mayor, I do want to just say thank you for your small business week next week. I think most of your members probably know I'm the daughter of small business owners, but I don't know if they know that my husband owns a small business as well. He's a partner in an engineering firm. And so honestly, small businesses need the support. It's so great to give them the opportunity to have programming that meets their needs. So thanks for always showcasing businesses and helping them out. There's a lot going on in regards to COVID, folks. So instead of starting with an update on what City Council's been up to this week, I thought we just go back to the basics and why we started this with the moment with the mayor to really talk about what's going on with. First off, let's start with some good news. The FDA has, as you know, I think at this point, unless you've been under a rock, has approved the COVID vaccine. So for folks that were hesitant to get the vaccine because they really wanted it to be fully vetted and have that level of approval, good news. It's fully approved like other vaccines and is available. And hopefully that takes away that objection. Now, as for some updates on public health orders, this has been in the news lately, and I just want to go over it real quickly. Jefferson County Public Health had an order that went through end of last month and takes effect September 7th, so it's already taken effect. Children in childcare settings ages 3 to 18 have to be masked. Now, if they're in extracurricular activities like sports, they either need to be vaccinated or have proof of frequent testing, regular testing. And so again, that went into effect September 7th. In TriCounty Health, on the Adams County side of our city, TriCounty Health did rescind the county opt-out provision. And so there is also a mask mandate for childcare settings. There it is, ages 2 through 18 to wear masks in those settings. So just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of those changes. I know there's been a lot of debate, and unfortunately, it's gotten really heated. And I think we need to remember the example that we're setting for our children and how they handle issues where people have strong opinions. And I'm really upset to tell you about the next thing. Jefferson County Public Health Department had to close vaccine clinics over the weekend because the workers at these vaccine clinics were being harassed, having liquids thrown at them, being threatened, fireworks thrown at them. And so they actually canceled the vaccine clinics, preventing people who maybe were waiting for the opportunity of a long weekend to finally be able to get away from their work to get a vaccine from getting a vaccine. That's not appropriate behavior. Really, we need to respect other people's choices and not violence is never appropriate. Threats are never appropriate. I did want to let you know that the city of Westminster, our police department, our city manager, and our assistant city manager have reached out to Jefferson County Public Health, and the Westminster vaccine clinics on the Jefferson County side will be open this weekend again. There's information in, it sounds like hyperbole, so I actually included a link, not just for the public health orders that I've already gone through so you can read them and understand exactly what they say, but also a news article on that story of how Jefferson County Public Health had to shut down their sites. And then again, a huge news. President Biden just last night is using the full force of his presidency to try to encourage or to mandate rather vaccines. This new mandate's going to affect roughly 100 million Americans. So if you are a company with 100 or more workers, you will now either need to require testing, weekly testing of your employees, or they can opt out by proving that they're vaccinated. And this will be administered through OSHA. There are also going to be mandated shots for healthcare workers, federal contractors, and the vast majority of federal workers. And they can face disciplinary measures if they refuse. Roughly 80 million Americans who are eligible for vaccines have chosen not to receive them. And so this is something that this mandate is hoping to address. For more information, there's other measures in this federal order. I have included a link to a New York Times article that you can look through. It goes through kind of 6 of the major takeaways from that. And I believe Juliet has or will share that with you shortly. And then on a state level, Governor Polis right now, as we speak, is giving an update I've given a link to the 9 News YouTube channel after we're done talking today, because I know you wouldn't pull away to hear what he's saying versus what we're saying. You can go check it out. But obviously, I'm not aware of what he's going to be discussing today. That governor likes to keep us on our toes sometimes. So it'll be interesting. Make sure you take a peek at whatever the governor is talking about when we're done today. I also included a link that to me is troubling. COVID in Colorado, right now, children make up more than 27% of the cases. So I think a lot of us in the first 15 months or so of COVID were really heartened, like if there was a silver lining, is that it wasn't impacting children. That is no longer the case. I just recently heard that Children's Hospital is having capacity issues, and so they've actually had to close their testing site because they don't have the man or woman power, the staff power, because they are having such a surge. Now that I've gone through kind of the statistics and the news stories, I wanted to give you some anecdotal information. I met with St. Anthony's North on Wednesday. It was their 50th anniversary of serving the city of Westminster from both 84th to 144th. So I met with their CEO and also their chief medical officer. And what I learned is that they are having capacity issues, and in fact are at the point that they are needing to consider stopping elective surgeries again. And this has a huge impact on the hospital, on local, on our residents, and also on those doctor offices, the surgeons, that is really their bread and butter. And so, there was definitely a plea and a level of frustration for people to take this seriously and make good choices and be good neighbors. When I asked them what percentage of those in our hospital were unvaccinated, the chief medical officer told me 99%. Significant impact right now. I've included in the link so you can keep a peek at statewide numbers, TriCounty Health numbers, and Jeffco numbers, all of those various websites, but I'm just going to go give you the most recent data. And remember, Jefferson County Public Health only puts their data out once a week, so it's always out on Mondays. So the information I'm giving you from Adams is as of yesterday. For Jeffco, it is as of Monday. So good news in Adams, the 7-day cumulative incidence actually went down slightly. It's still very high at 185.9 per 100,000. Jeffco went up. So from where it was, it's at 161.6. The 7-day average test positivity also went down in Adams County from where it was last time I spoke to you. It's now 7.1. I believe it was at 9 last time I talked to you. In Jeffco, it went up. It's at 5.9. Here's where the news stops being so rosy. Hospitalizations are up. So they are at 138 in Adams County, 138 people who are hospitalized with COVID. 15 of those are people who they suspect presumed COVID, but 138 total. In Jeffco, it is only 51. In Adams, and I don't have this data for Jeffco, ICUs are 91.3% full with 8.7% capacity, and inpatient beds are 89.7% full with 10.3% capacity. And then hospitalizations. This is the number that we were monitoring when we were looking at clear versus blue. Hospitalizations in Adams County have gone up to 1.28 over per 100,000 over 14 days. And so just as a reminder, on July 22nd, that was at 0.4689. So not quite 3 times as much, but I think it's a dramatic change where it really counts, which is at that hospital hospitalization because it's an indicator of capacity and how that impacts the community as a whole. In Jefferson County, it's at 1.04. But just to remind you, July 22nd in Jefferson County, it was at 0.36. So still a dramatic, that's just at 3 times. So here's good news again. So that was a lot of doom and gloom. But in Adams County, the vaccination rate for those that are 12 plus who have had at least 1 dose is 76%. In Jefferson County, it's 77.6%. So, just wanted to kind of give you, this is where we're at. I think nationally, we're seeing some of the incidence rates slowly starting to go down. We're hoping that's going to be a trend. I think it's too easy to see if it's a trend or not. But hospitalizations always are lagging. And so I think we're going to have some hard days ahead of us. Fingers crossed I'm wrong. Are there any questions? That was a lot of data.
That was a lot of data. And for those of you that are starting to have on, we have our mayor sites giving us updates on all things COVID before we transition into kind of city updates. And there are a lot of updates around COVID. So what she has been kind enough to do is include several links. These links are in the chat section. So if you're interested in finding out as it relates to the COVID vaccine approval by the FDA, that link is included for you. In regard to the actual mask mandates for kids in school districts by the Jeffco Health Department, that's also included in addition to Adams counties, which follows the Tri-State Health Department. There's also a news article related to some of the issues around the testing sites and some altercations that were going on between those that were trying to administer the tests and some folks that are not very supportive of tests. So you can find those details at the link included for you in the chat section. We also touched on the governor having his own address going on, probably simultaneously, that you can capture later. The link is included in the chat section. And as it relates to all numbers with COVID, the statewide numbers, the TriCounty Health Department, and Jeffco, those 3 links are all included for you as well. I don't see additional questions. I see a good morning message or a good afternoon message from Mayor Pro Tem DeMont. I just wanted to pull that up our way. We also have a good morning note from Parker Brown as well. And then it looks like Brian has a question for us in regard to the enforcement of Biden's new mandate for businesses of 100 employees or more. What does that look like on a local level?
As this just came out last night, I haven't had the opportunity to touch base either with the local public health departments or our own city attorney. But from the release, Biden's statement, it looks like it's actually going to be regulated and enforced at a federal level by OSHA, not at the local level.
Okay, thank you for that question, Brian. Again, we also touched on other instances of positivity, the cases that are in hospitals right now, and the numbers that we're seeing in hospitals. I don't see any questions, so we can keep on perusing through. We have a long, still a number of items we haven't touched on our list. So as questions come up, please feel free to type them into the comment section, and we'll be sure to address them.
All right. Well, as a lot of folks know, this is an election year. And I need to let you know, when you get your ballot, you're going to need to map out a little bit of time for yourself to sit down and really read through it, because we're going to have a few initiatives that have been pushed through by City Council that will be on the ballot this year. First, just some charter cleanup. We had parts of our charter that aren't in conformance with state or federal law. We had parts of our charter that still use gender-specific pronouns. So he was used quite a bit. So getting kind of to a more gender neutral, because you can be mayor and not be a man, and other incidences like that. And then we also had some changes. So one of the first things, and we've talked about this for over a year now, was setting up a commission to determine if we want to move. Well, first off, do we want to move to wards and districts, and setting up a commission to figure out the most equitable and representative way to do that? It looks like maybe Mayor Pro Tem DeMont had a question that we didn't answer. Do you want me to pause on what I'm doing so we can get back to that?
If we can. Thank you so much, Mayor. And I appreciate you, Mayor Pro Tem DeMont, for commenting. A lot of comments that we had in the chat section, so it's always a little bit easy to overlook. So very much appreciate that nudge. Mayor Pro Tem DeMont's question related to the patients that were being bought in from other states. Is that still happening, or are we aware of what that breakdown looked like by the hospitals that are being used?
So I can give him one-off information because I did ask that question. I thought it was a really helpful question. He asked it at one of the city council meetings and kind of was curious about that. And so at St. Anthony's North, it is not an issue. I would presume it might be an issue for some of those, like Larimer County, as you get closer to Wyoming, because Wyoming is having dire capacity issues with their hospitals, is what I understand talking to the CEO of St. Anthony's. And so people might have been coming there. But Colorado has enacted where you cannot right now transfer out. So if I am a patient at your hospital, Juliet, you can't transfer me out unless I need a higher level of care than what you can provide. Because of the capacity issues. So actually people right now currently can't really shop where they want, like they're kind of bound by where they came in. And so that is also causing just some operational challenges for hospitals. And it is because hospitals across Colorado are having capacity issues. Ultimately, I mean, she did not feel like this was a big thing, people coming into Colorado to get care. I don't know who else. I mean, I could call the hospital association to see if that's something that is happening. And I will definitely continue to follow up on that. But that was from her, not an issue, at least at her hospital.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that question. We do also have Chris, and it looks like Jerry and Elizabeth. Thank you all for hopping on and just engaging with us on this broadcast. Our mayor was sharing that our ballots will be coming out, of course, on October the 11th. And there are a number of items that are on there in regard to some questions. So let's get back to it so we can try and give like the big picture of those, and then we'll try and dissect them hopefully in another broadcast.
Okay. Can I go back to Mayor Pro Tem DeMont?
Oh, yes.
One thing that is, especially for the Jeffco side, so not the side of Westminster, is we are kind of a catchment. Those hospitals are catchment hospitals for some of the mountain communities. And so again, those beds, they would be Colorado residents, but not necessarily Jeffco residents or Westminster residents that would be going into those beds, creating some of the capacity concerns as well. So it's not maybe as much from out of states as different regions of Colorado. I hope that helps clarify it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So back to ballot initiatives. So like I said, charter cleanups, looking at wards and districts. How do we want those who govern the city of Westminster to be chosen? How do we want to make sure there's adequate representation, that everybody feels heard, respected, represented, and that their neighborhood has a fingerprint on policy? So that's going to be on the ballot for our voters to weigh in on. Then we're going to have a question about increasing sales tax specifically for public safety. So this is for our police. This is for our fire. These are for some of those programs we love, such as potentially expansion of co-responder programs, but making sure we have the resources to provide those that keep us safe, the tools, the tools they need and training they need. So that will be on the ballot as well. Then we're going to have a question. Is it time? Does Westminster want to allow marijuana sales? And if so, can we have an additional tax to help cover some of the impacts of those sales? And so that'll be on the ballot as well. And then finally, this one is not a tax increase, but rather, do we want to extend the sunset on our current parks and open space sales tax and allow for bonding? And this is one of the ones that I kind of pushed forward because right now Westminster is closing out to build out. And so there's less parcels available. And when they come on the market, if there's something that we have strategically identified would be a benefit for residents, we want the ability to act swiftly. We recognize as there's pockets of density in Westminster, we need to have elbow room because one of the things people really love about this community is our parks, is our open space, is our nexus to the outdoors. And so it's a really important tool to help us retain our identity. So that will be on the ballot as well. So like I said, it's a lengthy ballot. Get your reading glasses on, get a cup of coffee, a highlighter, and get ready to chit chat with folks in your neighborhood about what you think we should do. But in addition to candidates, those will be on the ballot. So that was discussed last night or last council meeting. And then we also had a study session on the Rocky Mountain Airport expansion proposal. And so that's a hot button issue too, where you have neighborhoods that are really concerned because there is a distinct feeling that the volume and the noise from the airport has gone up. Folks who feel that the economic benefits of that airport are so critical to our region. And so just really Westminster, just for absolute transparency, we have no say in this. But we do want to facilitate transparency and community conversation and make sure everybody's voices are heard. And so that was the point of that study session. So that was last week. Any questions on last week? Because again, as always, I'm over time, and that was a lot.
You were fine. You're doing great. I took up a good poke at the start explaining why we have you here today instead of Monday. So it looks like we have no questions, which generally means that everyone's starting to just absorb the information that we're sharing with them. And just kind of a quick plug, we will be hosting candidate forums for all candidates that are seeking office, current incumbents that we have, and then of course those that are looking to serve on our city council here in October. We will also hold a kind of a briefing update on some of these ballot questions for all of you to try and do a deep dive so you understand them a little bit more and a little bit more clearly. Mayor Pro Tem DeMont is referencing the YouTube recording. This can be found on the City of Westminster website. You can also find it by going to youtube.com and searching for City of Westminster. It'll actually pull up previous recordings from meetings that they've held, including the one that was recently recorded for the Rocky Mountain Airport study session.
Well, if I have just a few moments, there is something that I think is really important and I want to highlight. On Monday, we have a city council meeting. It is not a study session. And one of the items on that meeting is a public hearing on the proposed 2022 budget. Someone once phrased it to me. The city's budget is the affirmative articulation of our values and goals and priorities, right? And this is a community budget. This is a community document. So it's informed by our strategic plans, the needs of our community and the voices of our community, from our staff, what they need in order to provide services to meet our residents' expectations and needs. But we also want direct impact and input. And it's a meaty document. I think it's about 260 pages. But there's a really good staff summary. I think it's presented very well. Actually, the same night we're receiving an award for the way we presented the budget in 2021. But I do want to, don't be intimidated by it. Definitely, you guys are business owners. You know how to look at budgets, but the average person does not. But share this with your network, share this with your friends, help them demystify it, because this really is how your tax dollars are being put to work for you. And so if you have concerns, we'd love to hear them. If there's questions, we'd love to hear them and give staff the opportunity to answer them. So just wanted to make sure that was highlighted and that link went out to each of you. We have a few other items on. One of the things that's exciting is the opportunity to acquire a parcel of open space, the Diekman property off of 92nd. So that should be, I think, a positive thing. It's only 0.87 acres, but it's an area I think that the community will be happy to see it acquired and kind of maybe mitigate some of the structure that's on there currently. But those are kind of, I know we're out of time, so that was at least what I wanted to give you an update on. And then, do I have 30 seconds more?
Yes.
It's not on our agenda for our city council meeting, and it's not even on our agenda for our post council meeting, but there was an info only item. And this is an area that there's been a lot of community interest, both supportive and against. But the old rodeo market, we had a lease with the old Westminster Pub and Tavern, and that lease is being terminated. Just from the stress of COVID and changing economic conditions, that no longer is going forward. And so the city is looking at what to do with it. We really can't lease it out until there are some improvements to the structure. So I will keep you apprised if I hear of any changes there, but did just want to alert people because I do know that had been a hot button issue.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note for us to kind of start winding our conversation down. We had a lot of great information from our mayor. Of course, because Monday was Labor Day and because next week is Small Business Week, this is our only opportunity for another week from now, and we will have some more updates, hopefully, as it relates to COVID, all things city. I encourage you all, as the mayor has shared, to look through the agenda items that are coming up on Monday with the city council session that's coming up, including the budget items that are there. Of course, we had some great recap on things that have transpired over last week, from study session items to changes in COVID numbers, both with our counties and of course at the federal level. All those links are also included in the chat section for you. If you are just now hopping on, you can still rewind and rewatch this video. It will be available for instant replay at any time at your fingertips here on Facebook and of course on our YouTube channel. If you've not already done so, hit the share button on it as well. And if you do watch this and we're no longer live and you thought of a question, you do not have to wait that week plus for to ask that question of us. Just type it into the chat section or DM the page. We'll be able to get back to you in a timely manner. Either our mayor will directly answer the question if it's something that you are directing her way, and then of course if it's something to our organization, we'll try and tackle it. So feel free to continue to comment, engage with us. I do thank you for paying attention to this broadcast on a Friday morning, and I hope you guys have a terrific weekend. Thank you, Mayor, for being on here with us.
Thank you.